Dzień dobry Państwu. Rozumiem, że ta cisza, która już zapadła, jest tym momentem, kiedy możemy rozpocząć to wspaniałe wydarzenie, które odbywa się w Dolnośląskiej Szkole Wyższej z naszym znakomitym gościem, panem profesorem Zimbardo. Ja nazywam się i jestem rektorem Dolnośląskiej Szkoły Wyższej. I jest to dla nas ogromny zaszczyt, że możemy gościć pana profesora dzisiaj na naszej uczelni. Welcome, profesor Zimbardo. Dzisiejsze spotkanie będzie prowadziła z panem profesorem pani profesor Agnieszka Wieczyńska. Już nie zabieram ani sekundy. Życzę Państwu miłego, dobrego pobytu i wspaniałego wykładu. Dziękuję bardzo.
Dzień dobry. I am happy to be here with you today.
Słyszycie mnie Państwo? Witam serdecznie, witamy. Ja będę Państwa dzisiaj tłumaczyć. Nie jestem profesjonalnym tłumaczem, także będę starała się jak najwierniej oddać przekaz po prostu profesora. I już czekamy na krótką prezentację. Pan profesor wita nas wszystkich bardzo serdecznie.
So today I want to do something unusual I have never done. To just talk to you about why I love psychology and why I hope I will persuade you to love psychology and become a psychologist in your life.
Dzisiaj zrobię coś bardzo wyjątkowego, ponieważ po raz pierwszy będę mówił o tym, dlaczego kocham psychologię, dlaczego zostałem psychologiem i dlaczego będę Państwa przekonywał, żebyście byli psychologami w swoim życiu.
So this is a shirt made by students in a high school in America. They formed Team Zimbardo. And this is from the Grateful Dead with a picture of me on it. So I thought, I never wore before until today, so I thought I would share with you.
Widzicie Państwo inaugurację dzisiaj koszulki wykonanej przez studentów specjalnie na okoliczność upamiętnienia Zimbardo Teamu i eksperymentów stanfordskich.
Now also, as many of you know, this is the glasses that in my Stanford prison experiment, all of the guards and all me and my staff wore these silver reflecting sunglasses.
To są właśnie te okulary, które były użyte w eksperymencie więziennym na Uniwersytecie w Stanfordzie, które miały lustrzane na zewnątrz szybki.
The idea to wear these in the experiment came from a wonderful movie on prison called Cool Hand Luke.
Pomysł wziął się z filmu Cool Hand Luke. Czy Państwo wiecie, kto tłumaczy na polski? Być może, że to jest anglojęzyczna, this is only movie on English. Więc stąd jest pomysł na...
So, I love psychology. I have been a psychologist all of my life since I was a child. I'll tell you how.
Jestem psychologiem od najmłodszych lat. Powiem Wam, jak to się stało.
I have taught psychology for 60 years. 60.
O 60 lat. Mówię o psychologii od 60 lat.
I taught psychology at Yale University, at New York University, at Columbia University, and for 50 years at Stanford University. And 10 more years at Palo Alto University.
Czyli Yale University, New York University, Stanford, no wszyscy Państwo rozumiecie. To są te doświadczenia profesora.
So I have lived psychology a very long time.
Zatem żyję tą psychologią od bardzo długiego czasu.
And also I love to write about psychology, to share my ideas with students like you.
Także oczywiście piszę o psychologii, żeby móc się dzielić ze studentami.
And so there are many books outside that I publish. So PWN is my publisher for 30 years. Everything I write, they publish.
Od 30 lat PWN publikuje profesora książki, wszystko co pisze.
And I usually write a book every 2 years.
Co 2 lata znaję książkę.
Sometimes more.
Czasami jest więcej niż jedna książka.
So I have published 60 books.
Czyli opublikował 60 książek.
And the newest one I have never seen till now.
Dzisiaj nie widział właśnie.
It will come out in October in Krakow. There will be the Krakow Book Fair, and I will go and introduce this new book.
PWN zrobi w październiku tego roku promocję tej książki.
And this new book is by memoirs.
To jest książka, która opiera się na wspomnieniach profesora.
So the Stanford Historical Society interviewed me for 8 hours
8 godzin prowadził wywiad na temat swojego życia.
about my whole life, from the time I was born till now.
Moment urodzin aż do dzisiaj.
And then they made a typescript into a book, and PWN is the first company in the world to publish it as a book.
Ten pierwszy skrypt był publikowany, jest publikowany w Polsce właśnie przez...
So I am excited to read it because I have never seen it.
Rozumiecie Państwo, że będzie to po raz pierwszy.
Okay, so some personal background. My family is Sicilian. On grandfather's side, 2 grandfathers. My grandfather Philip, who was a barber, and my other grandfather Salvatore, who was a shoemaker. Both very poor from Sicily, came to America in 1900.
Szanowni Państwo, czy ja mam tłumaczyć, bo składacie wrażenie, że rozumiecie wszystko. Nie tłumaczę. Nie rozumiem bardzo. W takim razie, Philipem will not translate because everybody they do speak wonderfully.
So they were very poor and had many children. In those days, most families had many children. One side had 10 children, the other one 13 children. Because you had a lot of children and no good jobs, you were poor. But they were never educated. In Sicily, education was not important. What was important is your connection. You had a friend, you had somebody in the mafia, you had a cousin, a relative who would get you a job. So what happened is we were poor, always living in poor ghettos. And the first time I thought about psychology was when I was 10 years old. Young men would try to corrupt children like me to say, I give you $10 if you take this package from over there and give it to the man over here. You knew it was drugs, narcotics. And if you got caught, you'd go to juvenile jail. But for $10 was like more than a week's salary for your father in those days. And many of my friends took the temptation, and me and other children did not. So what is the psychological question? What is the difference between people, children who give into temptation and children, people who resist? So at 10 years old, I asked a basic psychological question, which many decades later, psychologist Walter Mischel began to do research on the psychology of temptation. But I was preceded him by 50 years. So my answer was, it was all about having a mother who was loving and had a moral compass. That your mother say, this is no good, this is good. Don't play with these boys. Don't do this, go to church, say your prayers, never steal, be honest. And so I thought that was the difference, but I didn't do research. So later on, when I became a psychologist, I realized that what's wonderful about psychology is to ask questions about your life. So you start with you. I said, so why do I think these thoughts? Why do I do this or not that? But then the answer is not reasoning, speculation, theory. The reasoning is we do research. We collect information, we collect data to answer that question. So this is what's special about psychology, which is different than philosophy or sociology or just education. That we ask questions that hopefully are interesting. That you want to ask questions that people want the answer to, and then you think of ways to turn this into research. Research means collecting information, collecting data, collecting evidence that either supports your idea or rejects it. So it's always the evidence that is important, not your opinion, not your attitude. So the conclusion is the data lead me to this conclusion, not I choose to think A, B, or C. So I began to, so I'm saying I was asking questions about my life, about people around me, and then I'm trying to think when we started in so some of the first research I did was about the effects that people have, people have when they are anonymous. So now, like again, when you're poor, you dress like everyone else. When you're rich, you want elegant clothes. When you're rich, you want to be individuated. You want to have a beautiful dress, beautiful necklace, beautiful suit, beautiful tie, beautiful hat. But when you're poor, you can't afford to be different. So you look the same. So when you go to a poor neighborhood, and you walk in anywhere in Poland and America, poor people look the same. So we call that de-individuated. You lose your individuality by the way you dress, by the way you look. When you're rich, women can make their hair blonde, or blue, or yellow, or green. If you're poor, you can't even afford to dye to change your hair color. So I began to do research on what's the difference between people in conditions where they are de-individuated, where they look the same as everybody else, that people can't tell you apart. Now, where does this happen? It happens in Mardi Gras, around the world. People put on masks. So masks take away your individuality. So I've always been interested in masks. Natives everywhere have masks. Some masks are like animals, so they give up their humanity to wear an animal mask. But at Carnival, in Rio, in many other places in the world, you put on masks to give up your identity, and you just have fun. So with a mask on, you do things you would never do as your person, as your individual person. You could sing and dance and make love and have fun with life. But again, Mardi Gras, for Catholic people, happens on Tuesday. Wednesday begins Lent. So Wednesday, for the next 40 days, you're religious. You can only do good. So Mardi Gras is the last time, at least for 40 days, you can have fun with life. So I did research on this question, how? I got women students at New York University to come to my laboratory, and we said, we want you to judge people who are applying for a job. You're going to see them behind the screen. And, but we don't want them to see you, so we put masks on. So, hood. So we had 4 women, we put them in a group, and we put a hood on, so they all look the same. But we just say, you 1, you 2, you 3, you 4. And now they're going to look at a screen where they see one woman being interviewed for a job. And now we tell them, which is not true, of course, that we want to see how those women prepare when they are suddenly under stress. Can they maintain their composure? Can they do a good performance when there's unexpected stress? What is the unexpected stress? You're going to press a button which gives electric shock to them. They're going to be stunned. but they're supposed to be calm and continue the interview. And so, but what we're really measuring is how often do the women press the button to give shock. Now, compared to what? So in all research, you have one group, which is the experimental group, and then you need a comparison. So the comparison group is women from the same class with no hood, with just regular face. And we emphasize the name, Mary, Jane, Agnieszka, Wilkenska, and so you have women who are identifiable and women who are not, but they're all doing the same thing. They're delivering shock to the woman they see in front of them. So what difference does it make if you're anonymous or not? Big, big difference. The women who are anonymous gave twice as much electric shock, and they held their finger down twice as long. So they simply, the same women just simply putting a hood on so nobody knows their identity, encourage them to be more aggressive, more hostile. And so this was an experiment I did many years ago, 1990, I don't even remember, 1960, which showed that, we call it like the Mardi Gras effect. Simply being anonymous enables you to do things which are, release your libido, to be hostile. We didn't do the other side, to be more loving. So that's the first research I did that was published. So should we stop for a question? Yeah. No, please keep up.
Proszę Państwa, czy macie tutaj Państwo pytania do profesora w tym momencie? Bardzo prosimy o Wasze pytania do tego momentu życia profesorskiego.
Okay, yes. Tell me your name.
Piotrek.
From where?
From Kiev, from Wrocław.
Okay.
Czy przedstawić się Państwo właśnie imię i skąd jesteście? Czy jesteście studentem, czy pracujecie?
To studiuję tutaj.
Okay.
Would you remind when those women were giving the electric shock during the experiment? What was the moment that they...
Oh, anytime. No, they could do it. See, the idea was they saw a woman being interviewed, and in their mind, you could give electric shock anytime you want in order to try to disrupt her. So that's the point. They could keep going like this, or just. So we left it up to them how many times and when, and then that's what we measured. We measured how many times they gave a shock and how long they kept their finger down. So jumping ahead to 1971, I did an experiment well known throughout the world. In 3 years it'll be 50th anniversary. We did it at Stanford University. It was called the Stanford Prison Experiment, as you know. I'm lecturing Saturday here. Yeah, I'm lecturing Saturday. I will show videos of the experiment and anything. But in that experiment was also prisoners in real life lose their identity. They become numbers. Every prisoner, you take away their name, nobody uses their name again. When you're a prisoner, you simply reduce to a number, 861235679. And so, the moment you become a prisoner, you're in a uniform like everybody else that looks the same. Your name, it's what makes us distinctive. What your name is. As soon as you say your name, you're different than everybody else here. But when you're a prisoner, you're only a number. And so, in all prison situations in the world, once you become a prisoner, you lose your identity. You lose your individuality. And really, in many cases, you lose your humanity. So now the question is, people who go to prison are often antisocial. They have done something bad, typically. They have broken the law. They have harmed people. They have stolen. But the question I ask, what happens when you put really good people, like any of you, as prisoners, with a uniform, with a number, and you didn't do anything. You didn't break the law. You're not antisocial. You simply signed up to be in my experiment. and then we're going to compare you to other students who are also good people, who we arbitrarily, randomly say, you be the guard. And so that's what the experiment was all about. Young men, and we wanted to do young women later, but we couldn't do it because the experiment was considered unethical when it was over. So young men playing the role of prisoner with no identity, or playing the role of guard with identity. And what was unique about the Stanford prison study is most experiments in psychology go 1 hour, 50 minutes. It's usually the time of a student class. So when you go to college, most classes in America are 1 hour or 50 minutes. So if I'm doing an experiment, I have to have you come and be available for 1 hour because I know you have to then go to another class. But what's unique about my experiment, it went 24 hours a day. Not 1 hour, 24 hours. Hour after hour after hour after hour. And then day and night. So when we began, we wanted to do the experiment for 2 weeks. As I said, day and night. The boys who became prisoners by random assignment, flip a coin, they lived in a jail for 24 hours a day, every day. The boys who became guards were like real guards. They worked 8-hour shifts. Morning 8 hours, afternoon 8-hour shift, night 8-hour shifts. And the simple thing is, what is the difference between boys at the beginning who are all the same? We chose them, they're all the same, psychologically healthy. They're college students, not from Stanford, from all over America, who are in San Francisco area in the summer. And so, as you know, in the experiment, when we began, the first day, nothing happened unusual, nothing special. Why? It's 1971. What was happening in the world in 1971, America was in a war in Vietnam. And the war in Vietnam, all students in the world were against the war. It was immoral and illegal. And in many college campuses in America, and I think maybe in France as well, I'm not sure in Poland, students protested, sometimes actively, sometimes aggressively. And in many cases, the university administration called the police on the campus to suppress students. And so students hated policemen, and students hated prison guards. So in my experiment, nobody wanted to be a prison guard. They said, I didn't go to college to become a prison guard. It has no value to me. I could be a prisoner. I could get arrested driving under the influence of alcohol or something, a tax problem. So nobody wanted to be a prison guard. So on day one, nothing happened. The boys playing the role of prison guard could not get into the role. So imagine this is a play. You say, okay, your role here, you put the uniform on, you come on the stage, you put the prisoner, you come on the stage, and then here's an audience, you say, okay, now begin the play. The boys playing the role of guard, they didn't want to do it. They'd rather be a prisoner. And what happened is that on day 2, everything changed. On day 2, the prisoners revolted. They said, we don't want to be dehumanized. We don't want to be a number. We want our identity back. They ripped off the number from the uniform. And then they also found a way to barricade themselves in their cell, to get a rope so the guards could not come into their cell. And then they started yelling, the prisoners started yelling at the guards, cursing the guards. And what happened was, the guards came to me and said, what should we do? I said, it's your prison. What do you want? You can do whatever you want. So now there are 3 guards on morning shift, 3 on evening shift, 3 on day shift. So there's 9 guards. And then there's backup guards in case some guard got sick. So they said, we bring in all 12 guards, we break down the door, and suddenly everything changed. Because then the guards were physically overwhelming the prisoners. And then the guard said, these are dangerous prisoners. No, these are students playing the role of prisoner. But psychologically, that's what changed. The guards in their minds said, these are dangerous prisoners, and we have to show we are in control. So we have to dominate, we have to abuse, we have to control. And so all these terms being, every day, every guard shift had to be tougher and tougher. And then at that point, the guards began to be sadistic, creatively evil, doing terrible things to the prisoners. And then within 36 hours, these prisoners who were normal, psychologically, we gave psychological tests to everyone. We only picked the most healthy and normal. They began to have emotional breakdown, crying out of control, and I had to release them to bring them to student help. Every day, another prisoner had a breakdown. So the experiment I ended after 6 days because it was out of control. So we didn't go 2 weeks, we went 6 days. Now, at the end of the experiment, we spent a whole day called psychologically debriefing them, as we met with all the guards, all the prisoners, and all together, so they could talk about their experience. And then there's been movies made about this study, a recent one in 2015 called the Stanford Prison Experiment. And there were earlier movies that I made just to share with the world the psychology of evil. How easy it is for really, really good people, intelligent college students who know in their mind it's not real, it's an experiment. It's not a real prison, it's not a real jail. It's a basement in psychology, in a university building. That even though they know that, in their mind they became guard versus prisoner. And so the study has had a really big impact on the way we think about institutions, the way we think about the power roles, the way we think about really how situations can control individual personalities. And so that research, along with an earlier study by Stanley Milgram, who was my high school classmate in high school in the Bronx in 1949. We were in the same class. He did the famous study on obedience to authority, where he had people give an electric shock to an innocent person because an authority person told you to do so. So those two studies are really studies about the power of the situation to dominate individuals. And so that's the evil side of my career. So before I go to the good side, we should really stop here. We can answer some of the questions that students asked earlier.
Państwo wysłaliście swoje pytania. Część z Państwa ma wiele pytań. Możecie zadawać po polsku, będziemy tłumaczyć. Bardzo proszę.
I've got one question regarding some reviews that we can read on internet or some papers.
Yeah.
Have you ever forced the prisoners or the guards to act in some specific way?
Yeah. What's really strange is last June, a strange thing happens. It's really a phenomenon. Every day, for 1 week, there would be an article about against me or the prison study. Headline is, the most famous study in psychology is all a lie. One of the most famous psychologists in the world is a sham. For different people, different magazines, all over the world, in 1 week. It doesn't mean, how could that be? I mean, it's 47 years after the experiment, and every day for 1 week, there would be some attack. Some said, Zimbardo coached the guards to be cruel. Another one said, the prisoner who had a breakdown says he was pretending, faking, not real. So each one had something they discovered. So what I did is, I went back and discovered that when I finished the experiment, I gave all the videos, we had like 14 hours of videos, all the audio tapes, all the records to the Stanford Historical Society, like do this. And the Stanford Historical Society took everything and digitized it So every single moment of the Stanford Prison Study is available to anyone in the world for free. So it was not like I was concealing anything. I did something that no researcher had ever done. I made available to the world every single thing that happened. All the guard reports, at the end of the study, everybody made a diary. I made my observation. So all of it was available. So many of these critics said they had discovered, as if it was hiding, that this and this. So I have written a 22-page rebuttal. I went to each criticism, took it seriously, and then answered fully to say, here's the video, and in the rebuttal I said, here's a video of one guard, talking to one guard on day one who was not involved, just sitting smoking a cigarette. And the boy playing the role of warden goes to him and says, we're paying you to be in this experiment. You have to act like a guard. You have to be a tough guard. You can't be sitting smoking a cigarette. That was it. So the critics took that and said, Zimbardo coached all the guards how to be tough. Not true. But so I will give you everything about the prison study. We have a website called prisonexp.org. Prisonexp for experiment.org. And in it has all the criticism and all the rebuttals. So I feel like I have answered all of it.
I asked about some scientific and some universities areas. They come with some distance to your final conclusions and say, be careful, don't rely on Zimbardo, better choose another psychologist. Actually, I have been relying on your articles for very often in my articles that I write on my university. But our professors, they don't know the truth, and they say, be careful, Zimbardo is, there is some problem with that man, and you better somebody else.
It's in the Lucifer Effect, which is published in Poland, I have 10 chapters on the prison study. 10 chapters. When I finished the experiment, I wrote a few articles, but for me it was not so important. From the prison study, I started doing research on the psychology of shyness, the psychology of time perspective. And it wasn't until many years later that people say you must write about everything. So in the Lucifer Effect, which is 16 chapters, 10 chapters on the prison study. I have a chapter every single day, everything that happened. And I have hundreds of references. Everything I say, I said, here's the evidence for it. There are many colleagues of mine who are jealous of me, jealous of my fame. So they say, don't believe Zimbardo. Don't believe me. In psychology, you believe the evidence. You don't believe the author, you believe the evidence. So the evidence is, look at the videos, look at the website, go to the prisonexperiment.org and see for yourself. I still stand by all the conclusions of the study. Now again, when I give my lecture Saturday, my experiment was repeated with the same results several years later in New Zealand. And I give them, and nobody knows about that because it's published in New Zealand Psychological Society. But in my lectures now, I always say, if you want to see my experiment was repeated with the same result, look here. It's a love bond, da da da. So on Saturday, I will show all that information. Thank you for your question.
I agree with you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, ma'am.
I have a question.
Wait, this lady first. You are?
I'm
Your name? Yeah. And student?
I go to college in America. But did that experiment prove that people are evil? Well, when you lose our individuality, might just start to do bad things. And I get that impression often when I'm a woman, I'm little, and I don't feel safe at night walking at the town. And you prove that when people have their individuality, for example, they don't have a face like a knife, they just get louder, they start doing bad things. So do we even have a moral here? Like, isn't it what keeps us good is the punishment we fear?
Looks like I can hear all of it.
Could you ask in one sentence? Dobrze, bardzo proszę.
Ask the same question.
To nie jest tyle niezgodnie tego, że ludzie tak naprawdę są, ponieważ wylecimy naszą indywidualność, zaczynamy robić złe rzeczy. Tak samo jak w eksperymencie, gdy ludzie stracili swoje imię, stali się więźniami albo strażnikami, to zaczęli robić rzeczy, których by nie zrobili. Tak samo pan Zimbardo powiedział, że wybrał zdrowych ludzi i powiedział, że normalni ludzie, a jednak tylko przestali bać się kary, zaczęli robić rzeczy złe.
Czyli rozumiem, że Pani się obawia, że w każdym jest zło, tak? Że na ulicy może Pani nie z każdego może...
Ja się obawiam,
Jakie jest Pani pytanie?
nie pozwolił, że moralne do skipy, że pan tak nie zaczął bardzo.
Do you think after your experiment that morality or goodness is just fiction because everybody is bad? Because if healthy people turn on they
No. I don't believe good and evil is in people. I believe good and evil is in social situations. And so, in fact, in the last chapter of the Lucifer Effect, chapter 16, I say, we now know when you put good people in a bad situation, the situation can overwhelm most, not all, but most people. And I say, I wonder what would happen if we did the opposite. What happens if we put ordinary people in a good situation, in a situation that encourages them to be heroic? What would happen then? Could we create a nation of heroes? And then in that chapter, I say, what does it mean? I explore what it means to be a hero. I wrote that chapter in 2007, and the most interesting thing I discovered is, in all of psychology in the whole world, there was no research on heroism, zero. You know, there's the Greek myths. I mean, heroes have been part of our mythology. I mean, Agamemnon, Achilles. So really, the Greeks were the classic in terms of putting heroes of different kind against each other. But in psychology, how come we never studied that? We never studied the nature of heroism. So that's when I began to say, I want to show the opposite of the prison study, that you could put ordinary people in a positive situation that can inspire them to be heroes, that makes them think like, I could be a hero, by standing up against injustice, by speaking out, and by taking action to help people in need or to protest an immoral cause. And so I started the Heroic Imagination Project, which is the opposite of the prison study, which the goal is to say, let's create a situation in a family, in a school, and ideally in the world, which is designed to encourage people to be everyday heroes. To every day say, what can I do to make the world better? What can I do to make some person that I meet feel special? And so this is our new program, which we now have in Poland. We'll talk about Agnieszka Wilczewska, 6 years ago, 6 years ago, heard me lecture and said, I want all of your lessons, and she translated, with her and a team, all of our lessons into Polish, and now they are in high schools all over Poland. We're in all over Hungary, in Sicily, in Czech Republic, in Vienna, in Iran, in Tehran. So our program now is spreading goodness, the opposite of the prison study, around the world. And that's what I'm really most proud of. Not the prison study, but the Heroic Imagination Project, HIP, HIP. To be hip. In America, used to be, if you're hip, you're cool. Next question.
Proszę Państwa, tam jest pytanie, co jest. Proszę się przedstawić, powiedzieć skąd.
I'm Piotr, and I'm a free listener here. My question is, in the middle of the experiment, you probably already knew that you were doing something wrong, and me personally, I would be tempted to push it to the limits. What was the moment that you realized that this is out of hand and this needs to be stopped? What was inside you that felt you that you cannot do it anymore?
Yeah, see, the big mistake I made, first of all, I had done many researches, maybe 7 dozen, and all my research was 1 hour. It was typically me and several graduate students, me and undergraduates. I never did an experiment that goes night and day. So I didn't imagine what that would involve. Just think about it. And it was me and 2 graduate students and 1 undergraduate. So this experiment had 4 people. At any one time, one of them is asleep. At any one time, someone is getting food, has to go to the cafeteria to get food for breakfast, lunch, dinner. At any time, when a prison starts breaking down, I have to leave the prison to take them to student health. And then when the guards started doing terrible things, we were overwhelmed, me and my staff. We needed a much bigger staff, but we didn't imagine, we didn't think through carefully how complicated it would be. I lived in my office. The prison was in the basement of the psychology department. I lived on a couch in my office upstairs. I mean, I never went home. And so after a while, I began to lose my perspective. I should have played the role of principal investigator researcher alone. But what I made a mistake is, I was also the superintendent of the prison. I was playing 2 roles which are not compatible. As the superintendent of the prison, my job is to keep my prison going. If I was a researcher, a principal investigator, as soon as the second prison broke down, I'd blow the whistle, say, over, you proved your point, finito, experiment's done. So that was the biggest mistake I made, to play 2 roles at the same time. But it's because having never done this kind of research, I couldn't imagine how intense, how stressful it really was. And then in the middle of the study, one of the graduate students had an emergency at home, had to leave. So now it was me, 1 graduate student, 1 undergraduate, and one of us had to be sleeping at some time. Others are doing the video, so we were overwhelmed. We were really stressed beyond our capacity. And so I think we never would have won the second week. I mean, because physically, mentally, we could not do it. And so we ended it after 6 days. But in 6 days, 5 prisoners broke down. Every single person who applied for the study, we gave a battery of psychological personality tests. And we picked only the most healthy and most normal. 75 people applied, and of the 75, we picked 24 who were the most normal and healthy. And then, as I said, randomly assigned prisoner guard. So we couldn't believe when they started having breakdown. We thought they were fabricating, making lies, pretending. But then when the second one broke down and the third one broke down, then it was clear that the situation was overwhelming for them.
Przepraszam, zanim jeszcze zadam pytanie, Maja jest prośba z sali, żeby Pani profesor jednak tłumaczyła.
Dobrze, dziękuję bardzo.
Ja podam mikrofon.
I will translate anyway. Tak jak Państwo tutaj usłyszeli przed chwileczką, to były takie czasy, w których Pan profesor po raz pierwszy przeprowadził taki eksperyment, który miał trwać dłużej niż 1 godzinę. Był zaplanowany na 2 tygodnie. Popełnił tutaj kilka błędów. Jednym z najpoważniejszych błędów, jakie popełnił, to, że mianował siebie na dyrektora jakby tego więzienia, czyli jakby był częścią eksperymentu, a jednocześnie był twórcą tego eksperymentu, czyli miał patrzeć z zewnątrz na ten eksperyment. Miał bardzo mały zespół tam, to było tylko 4 osoby które wymieniały się wzajemnie. Ktoś szedł do domu, ktoś szedł spać, więc tam w zasadzie jedna osoba na bieżąco była, która mogła ten eksperyment koordynować i analizować, co się w nim dzieje. W związku z tym, jak zaczęły się dziać rzeczy bardzo trudne i zaczęli być mentalni więźniowie, to przekroczyło jakby też możliwości wyobrażenia tego zespołu, więc cała ta sytuacja rzeczywiście wymknęła się spod kontroli. Ale był to moment, w którym coraz bliżej zdawali sobie sprawę, że należy przerazić Państwo tą historię powinni już znać. To było to, o czym profesor powiedział. Bardzo proszę.
It's me, Thomas again. I would like to ask the scientifics that begin some experiments have some expectation, some hypothesis. Have you had a hypothesis what would come to your experiment, what would lead to, or and you would like to confirm your expectations, or it just went out from itself?
Tutaj pytam właśnie pana profesora o to, czy ten eksperyment miał jakieś założenia, jakieś hipotezy, czy po prostu mieli eksperyment, żeby zobaczyć, co się będzie działo.
Yeah. In a traditional experiment, he's right, you start with a hypothesis. You believe a certain thing will happen or not happen. This was not a typical experiment. This was an exploration in human nature. So it was really not a hypothesis. Or with hypothesis, what happens when you put good people in a bad situation? Does the situation overwhelm the people, or does the goodness of the people dominate the situation?
Więc nie było żadnych hipotez, to było raczej badanie tego, co się będzie działo w danej sytuacji, eksplorowanie zachowania ludzkiego.
But really it was an exploration. I'm saying I was following up on Milgram's research, in which he showed, now Milgram used men, old men, 20 to 50 years old, not students. So I said, what happens when you have smart people, college students, put in playing these roles? Like you put them on a stage. When the curtain comes down, the actors leave the stage. They're not good or bad people. They go back to normal.
Po prostu był zaciekawiony, patrząc na eksperyment Milgrama, który wziął po prostu zwykłych ludzi między 20 a 50 rokiem życia. Profesor sobie wymyślił taki koncept, że żeby wziąć inteligentnych, bystrych, empatyczne osoby i zobaczyć, co się będzie działo.
Yeah.
Well, your name, please? My name is Professor Jaroslav. Professor, I have a question on you. How quickly, I'm also a student of the school, how quickly those students recover from Stanford experiments after that? For how long time they needed to be fully back normal as before this experiment?
So almost immediately, as I said, when the experiment was over, clearly prisons had breakdowns. Many of the guards felt guilty because they knew they did terrible things to the prisoners, and the prisoners told them, you did horrible things to me. But we spent one whole day sharing their emotion. That was critical. It's called psychological debriefing, which you should do at the end of every experiment, but most psychologists don't do it because the experiment is 50 minutes, and you only have a few minutes before students have to leave. And then we followed them up. We had them all come back 2 weeks later because we wanted to show the videos. In those days, it took 2 weeks to develop the video. And we followed up with the prisoners for many, many, many months and years.
To było trudne doświadczenie, ponieważ rzeczywiście załamali się więźniowie, a ci, którzy grali rolę strażników, czuli się winni całej tej sytuacji. Więc spędzono cały dzień nad tym, żeby rozmawiać z tymi uczestnikami tego eksperymentu o ich emocjach, o tym, jak im było tam. Co jest bardzo nietypowe, bo zwykle poświęca się temu kilka w eksperymencie się rozmawia. Ponadto po 2 tygodniach ponownie się z nimi spotkano, żeby analizować, zobaczyć wideo nagrane w trakcie tego eksperymentu i ponownie z nimi rozmawiano.
See, but again, what's unique about the prison study is it really is a play. Everybody is in a uniform. Everybody is given a role. You're a prisoner, you're a guard. You put on the uniform, you put on the sunglasses, or you put on the uniform with the number. And so at the end of the experiment, what happens? Give me back the uniform. The movie is over. The play is over. So physically getting out of the uniform is like getting out of the role. So it was easier for them to say, the guard, I did bad things when I was in that uniform, in that role. But that was not me. Me, I'm a good person. Or the prisoners who broke down and say, when I was in that uniform, in that situation, and the guards did horrible things, that person had an emotional breakdown. So we were able to separate out the identity transformation. When you were in the uniform, in that basement, on the stage, playing your role, you did bad things, psychologically bad things to yourself or against other people.
Czyli cała jakby tutaj idea tego była taka oparta na tym, żeby rzeczywiście wyjaśnić, żeby w momencie, kiedy zdjęli te wszystkie maski, te wszystkie atrybuty, te emblematy, kiedy zdjęli okulary, mundury, które powodowały tę deindywiduację, to wielu z nich sobie zdało sprawę, jak złe rzeczy zrobili, ale z drugiej strony to jest właśnie wyjaśnienie, pokazanie, że tak naprawdę oni grali tę rolę. Ja czasem tak tutaj się odczuwam do swoich, czasem z studentami robimy też takie odgrywanie ról. Każdy w jakiejś tej swojej roli się gdzieś tam znajduje. Tutaj rzeczywiście jakby wyjaśnieniem dużym taką ulgą dla tych uczestników było to, że oni w danej sytuacji, kiedy została im nadana taka rola do takiego odgrywania, mogli się posunąć do tego, ale to była osoba w tej sytuacji, która dostała takie atrybuty i taką rolę miała grać. Także to było takie dla mnie uspokajające i wyjaśniające to samo.
Yeah, I don't want to continue on the prison study. I'm sorry. I don't want to continue on prison study because it's mostly negative. So if you want to switch to Heroic Imagination Project or other thing, again, I'm here to say why you should love becoming a psychologist and do better research than me.
So tutaj właśnie mówimy o tym, jak być lepszym psychologiem niż profesor, jak być w ogóle psychologiem i dlaczego warto być psychologiem. Także bardzo zapraszamy serdecznie Państwa do zadawania pytań. Mamy kilka tutaj, tak, bardzo proszę. Pani tam z tyłu, bardzo. Tak, Pani tam, bardzo proszę.
Thank you. My name is Katarzyna Prof. I'm an anthropologist.
Katarzyna, psychologist.
Anthropologist.
Anthropologist.
I don't see.
Katarzyna is on the left side. We will be
my name is Katarzyna Prof. I'm an anthropologist. Professor, you mentioned that still in the prison experiment, when students really got into their roles, that's when they started to be creatively evil. And when I see the Heroic Imagination Project, the title, I think that there's also an assumption that people can be creatively heroic. So I wanted to ask about creativity. Could you please tell us about the role of creativity in all of this?
Tak, pytam o rolę kreatywności, bo skoro można było wykreować zło, a można też wykreować bohaterstwo, czy mówi profesor więcej?
Yeah, it's so creativity is an area of psychology that's very important to study what makes some people creative and other people not. What do you mean creative? To write music, to paint. So creativity takes many forms in the arts, of painting, of music, of drawing, of paint, but also in thinking. To have creative thought is really the first time anybody thought that thing. So everybody would love to be creative, to have a new idea that nobody ever had, because then you get credit for the idea.
Imagination project.
Yeah. So the idea is, can you create environments that encourage people to say, I am willing to be heroic, to help other people. I'm willing to take a risk of my life to help someone in need. And so I think I'm the first person to say, can we create environments that promote everyday heroism? So I call it everyday heroism, separated out from military heroism, bravery. So it's not bravery in battle, it's moral courage.
Więc też kreatywność tutaj to jest właśnie element tworzenia wszystkiego. W psychologii jest też wiele kreatywności, zwłaszcza jeżeli chodzi o takie kreatywne myślenie, że możemy zmienić sposób myślenia o różnych rzeczach. Jeżeli chodzi o kreowanie bohaterstwa, to możemy stwarzać takie warunki, w których będziemy wytwarzać dobre rzeczy. I tutaj nie chodzi o takie bohaterstwo w bitwie, bohater bitewny, tylko taki bohater, który uruchamia swoje myślenie w kierunku zmiany, czy to w dobrym kierunku, moralne takie bohaterstwo, że zdaje sobie sprawę z tego, co mogę dobrego zrobić, czy to jest moralne, czy jestem moralnie odpowiedzialny za zrobienie czegoś dobrego.
Yeah, so again, instead of just saying everyone should be a hero, what we have done is I've used psychology, social psychology, and cognitive psychology to develop lessons to teach you how to be a hero. So the lessons that I prepared and that Agnieszka translated and is working in many places in Poland, one lesson is how to be an active upstander rather than a passive bystander. So we teach you in lessons that 3 or 4 hours long in great detail, with videos, with movies, with questions and answers. We teach you how to be a hero. Not saying, oh, you should be a hero. It's what does that mean? So what does it mean to be a hero? And then what are the challenges that heroes face? And how can you overcome these challenges to stand up, as I said, speak out and take action?
Do tego projektu, aby go stworzyć, wykorzystaliśmy odkrycia z psychologii społecznej, psychologii poznawczej. Stworzył profesor kilka lekcji, z których pierwsza z nich dotyczy tego, jak nie być biernym obserwatorem. I nie chodzi tutaj o to, żeby przekonywać innych, powinieneś być bohaterem, tylko o to, żeby zapytać siebie samego i innych, jak możemy być bohaterami w naszym życiu. I my te lekcje wprowadzamy. Tutaj też przetłumaczyliśmy je na język polski. Tych lekcji jest 6 obecnie. I jeżeli Państwo tylko są zainteresowani, to tak od razu dodam, to się nazywa właśnie projekt bohaterskiej wyobraźni. Jest w wersji polskiej, możecie wejść na stronę i zobaczyć nazwy tych lekcji, w jaki sposób prowadzimy zajęcia z uczniami, z nauczycielami, żeby odkrywać w sobie tego bohatera, albo żeby uczyć, w jaki sposób możemy być. I to właśnie jest to, i to jeszcze co profesor na końcu powiedział, że uczymy, w jaki sposób mamy zobaczyć w danej sytuacji, że powinniśmy zainterweniować, powiedzieć, zatrzymajmy się, zobaczmy, co tu się wydarzyło i mówmy głośno, o tę wiedzę upowszechniajmy. Wtedy, zwłaszcza kiedy coś namierzymy, co jest potencjalnie może zagrażające dla osób, dla grup, a my możemy zrobić krok, który to przełamuje. Wcześniej profesor też mówił o tym, tego nie tłumaczyłam, ale może tam do tego wrócę, że właśnie wiele sytuacji społecznych kreuje to zło. Tak jaka jest właśnie ta indywiduacja, przesunięcie ryzyka, dynamika procesów życiowych. I często my nie widzimy, jak to się dzieje, że dochodzi do takiego elementu w sytuacjach społecznych, że ktoś jest krzywdzony. Poddajemy się temu i nie wiemy, w którym momencie możemy tę sytuację zatrzymać. Więc to mówi, my uczymy na tych naszych lekcjach, że teraz, właśnie teraz, jak to tylko odkryłeś, to możesz powiedzieć stop. I uczymy, jak to zrobić, jak to mówić głośno, żeby zatrzymać to zachowanie, bo on wtedy ma dużą szansę, że to się nie powtórzy w przyszłości, nie powtórzy się w wykonaniu danej osoby czy grupy.
So again, let me answer another way to think about being creative. So psychologists, like me and hopefully many of you, when we get an idea that's in my head, I think about how I can translate that into positive social action. So a few years ago, I gave a lecture. Yeah, at University of Silesia, I gave a lecture, and then several social workers came up afterwards and said, could you come to our town, which is nearby, Nikki Showitz? We have a problem we think you could help us with. And Nishka said, it's not far, we will go with that. We went to this town, and what they said is, Nikki Showitz used to be the center of coal mining for all of Poland for 100 years. It was an affluent town until there was no more coal to extract. And all the coal miners lost their job. This was their identity. They were proud to be coal miners from Nikishowitz. And now, so the fathers have no job, and with the no job, no identity. They're not the man of the house, they don't bring in the money. And so what did they do? They started drinking vodka, getting drunk, and abusing their wives. One consequence was the children hated to go home after school because the home was now unpleasant. It used to be very pleasant. And so the social worker said, what can you tell us what you can do to help us?
Przykład podał profesor o tym, że kiedy był parę lat temu wykładał na Uniwersytecie Śląskim w Katowicach, podeszła grupa wolontariuszy ze stowarzyszenia, którzy pracowali w Nikishowcu pod Katowicami. I powiedzieli, że mają kłopot, ponieważ pracują w takiej dzielnicy, która jest bardzo trudna do pracy. Nie wiem, czy Państwo wszyscy kojarzycie, ale Nikiszowiec jest przepiękna, bardzo stara, ponad stuletnia dzielnica takich familowych, czerwonych, pięknych budynków, które objęte są ochroną architekta zabytków. W każdym razie przez wiele lat panowała tam bardzo dobrze się ludziom żyło, ponieważ są to głównie górnicy, którzy żyli z węgla, który wydobywali. Podział ról tam był bardzo prosty, mężczyźni zarabiali, kobiety prowadziły dom. W momencie, gdy stracili swoją pracę, ponieważ węgiel się skończył, kopalnie zaczęły być zamykane, zaczął się ogromny problem, ponieważ ci, którzy utrzymywali rodziny, nie mieli co robić, nie mogli wykonywać swojego zawodu, czyli właśnie górnicy, zaczęli wpadać w alkoholizm. I zaczęła się bardzo trudna sytuacja rodzinna, dla kobiet także, które nie miały z czego się utrzymać, dla dzieci, które miały ojców mających problemy psychiczne i właśnie z alkoholem i z różnymi ucieczkowymi zachowaniami. I w związku z tym to był ten problem, z którym wówczas sobie to stowarzyszenie chciało brać. Która profesora, co on by tutaj proponował zrobić?
Okay, so now I invite you to come into my head. And what do we ask these ladies? First we ask them, what do the children do when they finish school at 3 o'clock before they go home for dinner at 6 o'clock? We want to know, where are they?
Więc pierwsze pytanie, które zapytał, to mówi, no dobrze, no to co się dzieje z dziećmi? Jeżeli oni kończą, jeżeli one kończą lekcję o 3 do godziny 4, zanim ci rodzice gdzieś tam, którzy muszą sobie gdzieś znaleźć jakąś zastępczą, być może pracę, co się z nimi dzieje z tym?
They answer me, we don't know. I said, well, I don't have an economic solution, but the psychological solution is we need to have a place, a physical place, a social place where children go after school before going home.
Nie mógł dać rozwiązania ekonomicznego, ale mógł psychologiczne, czyli zaproponował stworzenie takiego miejsca, w którym rzeczywiście ta młodzież może się spotykać, zanim wróci do domu. Ja chcę jeszcze tylko Państwu dodać na marginesie, że ten Nikiszowiec jest takie miejsce, gdzie nie można zbudować nic właśnie przez to, że tam jest objęte specjalną ochroną, więc tak naprawdę korzystają tylko z tej infrastruktury, która tam jest i oczywiście te dzieci nie miały się gdzie tam chodzić.
And we want the place to be really interesting, exciting, that students want to go. They don't have to go, it's voluntary. That when they go there, they will learn many new things that they don't learn in school. My publisher will give us computers, they'll learn computer skills, they'll learn languages, we'll get a game center, they learn gaming. So we want a place between school and home every day, an all-day Saturday, where children love to go because we will make it exciting for them.
Czyli chodziło tak naprawdę nie tylko o stworzenie miejsca, ale takiego miejsca, do którego te dzieci będą uwielbiały chodzić. To będzie takie miejsce, gdzie one będą mogły rozwijać swoje umiejętności, i te komputerowe, jak i związane z ich zainteresowaniami, ale to musiało być takie miejsce, które rzeczywiście one kochają.
And God shone the light on me because just then when we were talking, in the middle of the town, in the middle of Nikishowitz, there was a store that was closed. And then I said, we need to rent that store because the students have to pass through the town from school to go home. And I just got from my publisher, I don't know, 7,000 zlotys or more. I said, I give you my check we rent the store and we have the students paint it, clean up, and make it their, so they feel it's their place.
Profesor już nie pamięta, jaką kwotę wtedy zaproponował, ale zaproponował, powiedział, jeżeli wy zrobicie tutaj centrum takie dla tej młodzieży, to ja dam swoje pieniądze i wesprę. Yes, and you offer as well, you know, as I remember, something like for playing, yeah, for music playing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we videos and music.
Także profesor zaproponował tam kilka takich rozwiązań i dał swoje własne pieniądze, daje swoje własne pieniądze, jeżeli ten stary sklep, który tam stoi pusty, jeżeli na przykład jest to miejsce.
I teach boys to dance. The girls teach boys to dance.
Czyli chłopców, ja się tańczy z dziewczynami. Oni tego nie mówią.
So we started that 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
This Zimbardo Center.
Yeah. No, but how long is it going?
This is like almost 5 years.
5 years, and now it's run by the family.
Więc teraz już tak, teraz już to centrum działa 5. rok. Nazywa się Zimbardo Center, Centrum Zimbardo i jest prowadzone przez stowarzyszenie, nazywa się Fundacja Inicjatyw Lokalnych. Tak się nazywa to stowarzyszenie FIL. Możecie to sobie zobaczyć i działa i rzeczywiście organizuje dla młodzieży. They organize from now and there.
Yeah, so now the Zimbardo Youth Center, the students, they make things, they sell things on the street in the town, so they are now productive. They make books, they make pictures, they make magnets to put on refrigerators. And every time I come to Poland, I go visit. So we meet with all the old students who now, many of them are in college, right?
W tej chwili oni już się sami utrzymują, że pozyskują fundusze z miasta na tą działalność, sami też wykonują wiele rzeczy, które mogą tam sprzedawać. Tak jest to takie centrum, miejsce, zresztą to jest bardzo interesujące, bo miasto nawet dało to na szlaku zabytków, że ten Dlaczego jest centrum Zimbardo, so you are on the way of touristic Zimbardo Center, so tourism. Także jest to miejsce do zwiedzania, można tam wejść, gdzie każdy z Państwa, kto jest w Katowicach, może wejść do tego centrum Zimbardo i tam właśnie mają koszulki, takie w ten sposób się utrzymują, prowadzą różnego rodzaju projekty lokalne.
So again, it's what psychologists do is, if you have a good idea, it's always, how can I translate the idea into action? Because action is what changes the world. Ideas make you smart, but unless the idea comes out of your mind, in a speech, in music, in writing, it doesn't change anything.
Realnie wystarczy, proszę Państwa, nie wystarczy, że będziemy mieli świetny pomysł, że jesteśmy inteligentni, twórczy, że ważne jest co this is about creativity. It's not only creativity, but also creativity is also going into action. Także musimy zrobić, podjąć coś, wykorzystać ten nasz potencjał, żeby to znalazło zwieńczenie w rzeczywistości.
So again, I get back to my opening statement is that I love psychology because psychologists working together, not alone, can make the world better, can change the world for the better. We have a problem now in Poland, in America, in Turkey, in Sicily, where our government is, in Hungary especially, all of our governments are moving toward the right, extreme right wing. It's a big challenge because right-wing governments give less power to individuals and more power to the state. And Russia is the extreme version of that.
Także teraz mamy taką też sytuację, że mówi Pan Profesor o tym, że wiele się też zmienia w społeczeństwie, że mówi o tym, jakie rządy są, że jest trudna sytuacja jak w Stanach, w Polsce, że mamy rząd bardziej prawicowy, który wtedy nie koncentruje się na człowieku, tylko bardziej na samym zarządzaniu.
Anyway, so here's now a political problem around the world. If you believe in democracy rather than autocracy, so the question is, what can you do? Most people feel helpless. In America, our president is the worst president in the history of America. He is, unlike most, he's ignorant and he is dangerous because he has so much power. And every day he does something stupid and cruel that moves the world toward war.
Czyli możemy, proszę Państwa, tak jak profesorowi, tworzyć tę demokrację, popierać, tworzyć rzeczy dobre dla społeczeństwa, ponieważ profesor jest zatroskany tym, co się dzieje w Stanach. Tak jak słyszycie, wypowiada się o Trumpie, że to jest ignorant, że nie można mu zaufać i że jest to wiele obaw, jeżeli chodzi o zarządzanie przez taką osobę.
So, I will end with the biggest problem in the world today is not war, it's global climate change. Global climate change is now a reality, changing the climate in the world for the worse. In America, near San Francisco, we have the Pacific Ocean. In the last 2 months, 6 huge whales floated dead onto the beach. And when they examined them, they died of starvation. First time in history. What does that mean? That means that where the whales used to go to eat little fish, krill, there's no more fish. So the fish are dying, and the whales, these big whales, have no food. So here's the beginning. So for me, that's a vision. Here's the beginning of global climate change that is killing whales that have lived there for eternity. And so the same thing is going to be happening around the world. I was recently in the South Pacific, and the ocean is heating up. And when the ocean heats up, the water rises. And now many islands are beginning to be covered with water. And many people live on an island. Their farms are on islands. And many of them are going to have to move to the mainland and change their whole lifestyle. And they expect this is going to be true around the world. Every nation which is at sea level will in 50 years be covered with water. And many governments are doing nothing. And Trump is the first one to say he doesn't believe in climate change because he gets money from oil companies and coal companies who pollute the air and create the climate change.
Było zaproszone bardzo ważną kwestię, tak jak słyszycie Państwo, że teraz nie wojny są naszym największym zagrożeniem, ale właśnie zmiana globalna klimatu, która przyczynia się do tego, że flora, fauna ginie wodna, zwłaszcza, że mogą być pewne tereny zalane, zwłaszcza te, które są na równi z poziomem morza, już teraz jest to widoczne. I że krótko mówiąc, na przykład prezydent Stanów Zjednoczonych nie robi nic w tym zakresie, ponieważ są polityczne uwarunkowania, ponieważ wspiera przemysł węglowy, paliwowy.
So again, to end on a positive note, what all of us can do is, with your government, your local government in this town, what can you do to promote positive climate effects? Recycling, minimizing carbon dioxide in the air, protesting when the government does something which promotes negative climate. And it's students who are leading the way around the world, not old people, not teachers, but students who say, this is our life, this is our future, and that we want to have a world that we can live in and breathe in, and you old people are changing it so that it may never happen for us.
Czyli to jest takie tak naprawdę nasze zadanie, zadbać o to, żeby przeciwstawiać się, kiedy rządy nie troszczą się o to właśnie, jaki jest stan naszego powietrza, naszej wody, żeby wyrażać swoje zdanie. Bo to jest bardzo poważna kwestia, jeżeli chodzi o życie na Ziemi, nasze życie.
And if you're a psychologist, there's a whole field called political psychology, that you can become a psychologist, and if you're interested in politics, you go into that sub-area of political psychology. I'm a social psychologist. If you want to help people directly, you become a clinical psychologist. So for whatever your personal interest is, there's now a whole area of psychology that other people who think like you will say, come and join us. Together we will make the world better.
Czyli my jako psychologowie możemy się przyczyniać w różnych naszych obszarach do tego, żeby zmieniać świat i to, o czym przed chwileczką mówiliśmy, to jest na przykład psychologia polityczna. Oczywiście mamy jeszcze inne, tak jak psychologiem społecznym jest pan profesor, mamy psychologów klinicznych, którzy zajmują się, czy psychologów, psychoterapeutów, którzy zajmują się dobrem. Każdy z nas w swoim zakresie realizuje te właśnie zadania, którym jest zainteresowany i na których się zna.
Thank you, Benito.
Zobaczcie na podsumowanie jeszcze tego, co profesor robi, jaka jest jego misja. 14 minut trwa film, chyba 14, ponad 10 i film został zrobiony przez nas, przez profesora Zimbardo, przez szkołę.
Is this what I want to do? Am I giving things that I could that to make a successful life for me? To change your life in a new path, typically you need to know about that new path. I'm Philipem Zimbardo, and this is my way to inspire. So I grew up in poverty in New York City. In the Great Depression, 1933 is when I was born. My parents were second-generation Sicilian, uneducated. My mother and father did not go to high school at all, and we lived in poverty in part because my parents lived in what I would call, they lived for the moment. They lived each day for itself. And I knew as a child I would have to become future-oriented. That is, I would have to find a way to plan a life rather than live what is given to you. Because if you're poor, what's given to you is nothing. And so I realized education was the key. Education is the only way for an ordinary person to get out of poverty. Now, the other way, of course, is if you have special athletic ability. You can be a football player, a basketball player, a baseball player, but that's very rare. So from the time I was a small child, I realized school was my mission in life. To be a student, to be a good student, and I love school, I love my teachers. I still remember 70 years later the names of all my teachers in the first, second, third, fourth grade. But now the interesting thing was, given my parents had no education, when I finished each level, when I finished high school, my father would say, now it's time to go to work. No, Dad, I have to go to college because I will make more money. That's what I have to tell him. So then he said, okay, go to 2-year college. And I said, no, Dad, 2-year college, they don't teach language, they don't teach mathematics. So then he said, okay, you could only go to college if you go to a college that's free. And he said, okay, I will do that. And then I have to work every night to support myself. And then when I graduated college, he said, now you go to work. I said, no, Dad, you've got to go to graduate school. And I had a teacher come to my home and to have dinner with us, and the teacher would tell my parents, oh, he's such a good student, it's really important for him to get a master's degree. He will make more money. So all they knew was making more money. And then finally I had a master's degree, and then I have another teacher come say, if he gets a PhD, he can get a job at the university. And I still remember my father say, I give up on you. Obviously you're lazy. After getting a PhD, you work all the time, you're reading, writing, you're doing research. But fortunately, years later, my father finally said, oh, now I understand that you love this thing, education, and you're really good at it, and I'm proud of you. But it took him 30, 40 years before he could say that. My biggest support were actually my teachers. I guess my mother was supportive to always say, do the right thing, be a good boy. Because again, as I said, I grew up in the ghetto, and there were men whose job it was to corrupt children, to do criminal things for money. And I had friends who gave in to that temptation, and me and other friends didn't. And the important thing is having a mother who had a moral compass to say, this is good, this is bad. Don't do anything that brings shame to your family. And so in that sense, I would say my mother was my biggest guide in starting my life. And then I always had selected teachers, who made me the teacher's pet, took me under their wing and gave me special privileges, to get special homework. I was a very smart kid, but again, it's from being very young, even in elementary school, I knew I wanted to be one of them. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, because it was clear teachers change the world. And if you change the world one child at a time, one student at a time, and that's been my mission in life. How can I use what I know, what I've learned, to make somebody else feel special by transferring what's in my mind, in my heart, to other people. To create a world that is better than it was when I came in. To inspire and teach, especially young people, how to become everyday heroes. How to make their world and their family and their community better by doing daily deeds of kindness and caring. My goal is to help people transform compassion into action. Action that makes a difference in the lives of other people. My goal in every class is to make every one of those students feel special, even if it's a large class, by designing lectures that have a personal impact. So I bring to the class everything I know about psychology, everything I know about different ways of thinking, different ways of being, but I try to find out how I could make what I teach relevant to my students' lives. And since then, I go beyond my students at Stanford, who are special students, and they're brilliant young people, to say, I'm interested in how I can reach ordinary people, any people who are uneducated, like my parents were. So in one sense, my first failure was as an academic. I was teaching at New York University. I was publishing a lot. I won awards being a distinguished teacher. And I was supposed to come up to be promoted to be associate professor with tenure. With tenure means you can't be fired. That means you have security. And when I came to be evaluated, they told me, you need time to mellow, you're too brash. And what they meant was, this was 1965, 66. I was a very strong anti-war advocate, meaning against the Vietnam War. I organized student protests. Even as a professor, I organized student protests against the war. I did many activities simply say the Vietnam War is immoral, it's illegal, and it cannot be won. And essentially, it didn't affect my teaching. I taught as well, I taught even better. I wrote books about how to use psychology to promote peace, but still the administration at NYU was very conservative. They never said, because you're doing those things which we disapprove of, they simply said, you need more time to mellow. So for me, that was really, really depressing. And fortunately, shortly after that, in 1968, I get a call from Stanford University, the chairman of the psychology department, and he says, this is Albert Hastorf. I'm calling you because the full professor at Stanford have asked me to tell you that we want to make you a full professor with tenure at Stanford University, which even then was one of the best universities in the world. I couldn't believe it. I mean, here I'm at New York University, which is a good university now, but at those times it was really second rate. So I go second rate with no tenure, to be a full professor with tenure. So that was, I went from having my first failure experience to really like the climax of my academic success, of vision. Oh, right now I could not be happy. I am living my dream. When I think of little Philip, 7 years old in the Bronx, going to first grade class, bringing the teacher a little present. So now I'm the big kid, and I'm living my dream. My life is as good as I could ever have imagined it, maybe even better. It takes a lot of work. I mean, I work, if I'm writing a book, I might be writing 10, 12 hours every day. I used to be teaching in the morning and afternoon, come home, I would write, have dinner, you know, write some more, wake up early in the morning, write a few hours. And, you know, and some of my books are 300, 400, 500 pages. But once I began writing any book, like The Lucifer Effect was a very difficult book because it was all about evil. The evil of the Stanford prison study, the evil of Auschwitz, the evil of Rwanda. And so I immersed myself in evil, which is very difficult to do. And that was 15 chapters. It took 2 years, meaning 2 years, 10 hours a day. I mean, I'm living a life, I have my family, I love my children, love my family, but nevertheless, at some point, I said, Daddy has to go to work, meaning I go to the basement and listen to the writing. Is it possible to inspire and train anyone, children, ordinary people, to become heroes? Every day, in some way, you do little things, we call daily deeds of heroism, that make somebody feel special. So that you make the most ordinary person feel special. The person who serves you food in the cafeteria, you ask her name, you give her a compliment, you say, oh, that's a really interesting necklace, or that's an unusual way you did your hair. You compliment the food or serve it, oh, that was very quick, thank you very much. And you compliment the food, or you say, tell the chef, this is the best risotto I ever had. So I'm saying each day, in every situation, what a hero does is, and I live it, he's sociocentric. The enemy of heroism is egocentric. If it's about me, I don't even notice. If you're crying, if you look sad, if you're shy. No, my job in every situation is, what can I do in this moment, in this situation, to make somebody feel special? When I'm in an elevator, especially if I'm going to the hospital or something, I'm the first one in the elevator and I have a cane, I hold the door. People come in and they put their hand, I say, no, I have it. And they come in and they look, they're surprised. And then when the door opens, I put it there again. So it's a little thing, but I'm saying, I'm doing a service to other people. Now, they don't know I'm a professor, and these are ordinary people going to the hospital. Little things, I'm saying, it becomes automatic. If you're a child, what do you do after breakfast? You thank your mother for the breakfast. You don't take it for granted. She doesn't have to do it. You thank the person in the cafeteria for lunch. And it's just saying, thank you very much. So you don't make people feel like they are your servants. They're not. They're serving you. I live in San Francisco, and I love San Francisco, except we have 7,000 people who live on the streets. It's so sad. Sometimes whole families. And it's the really only negative thing about San Francisco. The reason we have so many people is the weather is good. It's never freezing. It's never too hot. So people come to San Francisco from other places, but they don't have a job. And many of these are also veterans who have mental problems. So what I do each day, I decide, and there's some places where I have to go from here to there, and I know there are places where there's some homeless people. And I decide I'm going to give $1. And so typically I give it, because I'm an older person, to an older person or to a woman. And what I do is, I'm going to now transform somebody who is a homeless person, which is a low status, beggar, into a person without a home. It's very different. A person without a home, not a homeless person. And then what I do is I say, hello, I'm Phil Zimbardo. I shake their hand, and I say, what is your name? And they say their name. And I give $1, and I say, I wish it could be more. I'm sorry you're down on your luck. Or I might say, did you live in San Francisco, or where did your family come from? If they look like they're a different ethnic group. In some cases, they begin to cry. What do you mean cry? I'm the first person who's treated them like a person. A person who doesn't have a home. A person who's in an unfortunate circumstance. But the worst thing about being poor is you're a beggar. And I do this in other places, not just San Francisco. When I go to Budapest regularly, every time I go, I'm amazed. On Bachi Street, there's a man sitting, the same man every time, and he's begging, and nobody stops. Is it a bet? I sit down and I say, Joseph, how are you? And he looks up and I say, remember me? I was here last year. And, I give him, €1 or something, and we chat for a minute or two. And I tell my friends there, and they said, oh yeah, they remember. Yeah, they see this guy all the time. They don't even notice him. He's like a statue. He sits with his hat like this. So it's becoming an everyday hero to me. It's a habit. If you have a habit, you don't think about it. If you're a smoker, you don't think about it. You finish your cigarette, you put it in there. If you have the habit of studying, as soon as you get home, after your dinner, the habit is you open a book. So the habit of heroism is simply, what can I do each day to make one person's life a little bit better? And it's really the imagination, imagining I could do it, I should do it, and I will do it. The danger in life is living a life that you don't enjoy. That is, you have a job that's beneath your level of ability, but it's a steady work. You have friends who are not encouraging, but at least they're friends. So I think for me, I think it's important for all of us at every age to step back and say, is this the kind of life I want to lead now? Am I giving what I could best to make a successful life for me? Obviously, I have to make some money if I really want to have a family, if I want to have a career, if I want to have money to travel. But essentially, it's weighing, what am I doing that's safe? See, for most people, we choose safe rather than risky. You don't analyze, what do I have that's special? So some people might be, a good graphic artist, but they're going to work at some boring job as an accountant because that makes the regular money. So maybe you try the other job, so you don't give up your job. So maybe you work part-time as a graphic artist and you support yourself with an accountant. To change your life in a new path, typically you need to know about that new path. So again, many people decide, I'm going to get more educated, I'm going to go to night school. I'm an adult, I'm going to go to night school. I'm going to go to school on weekends, as they do in Poland more than other places. So education for me is still the key to finding what is the best life for me. What kind of knowledge do I need? How can I find a new path in life without just giving up the old path? Get educated, get more education, and use your knowledge wisely and well to make yourself better, but always to make other people better.
Close friend of ours, and spent much time with him. So I'm really pleased it came out so well. No, I will sign books outside and also selfies. Before we get a surprise.
Wybierać te są nagrody dla 4 osób. Są to książki ukrywane przez do Angeliki Ławickiej. Jest po wykładzie zapraszamy też Państwa, którzy macie książki, żeby... So Angelika is here, student. to jest Hajsze. Trzecia osoba to jest Alicja Rogorza.
Bardzo.